Hey friends, it's Jasmine, and I hope that you all are doing well. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am a witchy content creator here on YouTube and several other platforms as well. So feel free to check out my links down below in the description and follow me elsewhere. And if you are a returning subscriber, it's good to see you back. I hope that you've been doing well, and let's get into today's video. In today's video, I really want to do this book review. It's been kind of on my to-do list for a little while, but I've just been really busy, and so now I finally have time to actually dedicate and sit down and talk about this book. The book that I'm going to be reviewing today is Craig Spencer's Aradia, which this is a modern guide to the Charles Godfrey Leland's Gospel of Witches, which I believe came out in 1899. Correct me if I'm wrong, or I will edit this somewhere. If you are not familiar, the Vangelo, or the Gospel of Witches, was translated by Charles Leland. And I feel like it's kind of become this very popular / also notoriously infamous piece of classical occult literature. And I'm using a lot of finger quotes here because there is a lot of speculation on the accuracy and the legitimacy of this text. And this video is in no way going to be addressing that. I want you to explore it and to also form your own opinions. And you can find a completely free version of the Vangelo, Charles Leland's The Gospel of Witches, Aradia, completely free online. You can find a PDF. I might even link one in the description of this video. The text is technically in public domain. I would strongly suggest that you take a look at that original text before you read some other books. I recently did a review video talking about Laura Tempest Aycroft's The New Aradia, which was incredible. I highly recommend that you check that out. And also, if you enjoy it, I would recommend that you check out Craig Spencer's Aradia as well. I'm going to read you a little bit of the back of the book here. Craig Spencer offers a fresh translation and re-exploration of perhaps the most important foundation text of modern witchcraft revival, and from it draws inspiration for the creation of a workable new system of devotional and magical craft, which is a quote by Gemma Gary, the author of Traditional Witchcraft. We love Gemma Gary, love The Black Toad, love The Devil's Dozen. Check out those books as well if you're interested in more of a tradcraft sort of flavor. But Aradia and her mysteries have heavily influenced the modern witchcraft revival movement. So whether you consider yourself a British traditional witch, a Wiccan, a neo-pagan, an American traditional witch, an eclectic witch, whatever, there is going to likely be some influence from the Gospel of Witches in your practice. If we're talking about the spell of lemon and pens and witch bottles, if we're talking about witch marks, if we're talking about working with nature spirits, if we're talking about doing full moon rituals. There's also a good amount of Catholic folk witchery in the book as well, which I know that sometimes Abrahamic aspects in craft can rub people the wrong way. But that is very much a part of this when it comes to saint shaming. So taking a saint and sticking them upside down in the dirt and cursing the saint until they do your bidding, that's also in here. I do also think that it's important to keep in mind the time period that the Vangelo was really coming about, and also that Charles Leland was a white man, a white Victorian man, who was translating this Italian text
allegedly from a witch named Maddalena.
Maddalena is allegedly a part of some unbroken Italian witch line who just gave the Coven's mysteries and the cultural secrets to Charles. I find that a little bit debatable. I don't know. The back of the book says, a revelatory new approach to the influential witchcraft classic. First published in 1899, Aradia, or the Gospel of Witches, is Charles Godfrey Leland's fascinating record of folk magic, said to have been revealed to him by hereditary witches of Italy and Tuscany regions, celebrating the goddess Diana and her daughter Aradia. This seminal work presents a rich and complete methodology of practice for those who are willing to engage in its unique wisdom. Aradia presents Leland's original English manuscript with new interpretations and translations, including 40 lines never before rendered in English. Craig Spencer provides an in-depth commentary that reveals the rich historical context of this profound work and provides revelatory analysis that makes the true heart of the original come alive. You will also discover hands-on instructions for a unique and magical practice based on Leland's remarkable glimpse into the 19th century craft lore. This magical guide is designed to help you expand and enhance your own modern-day journey through the enchanted realms of witchcraft. Craig Spencer is a Lancashire, oh my God, I can't say that word, forgive me, Anglo-Italian witch who practices traditional witchcraft. In addition, he is integrated therapist and Reiki teacher. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree with honors from the University of Salford and postgraduate certificate in education from the University of Central Lancashire. It's like Worcestershire. Like I'm sorry. Craig can be found on Instagram at Witchcraft Unchained and Twitter at Craig Spencer 90. So when it comes to affordability, I want to say I got this book on Amazon for less than $20, which I feel like the $20 sort of area, like $15 to $25 when it comes to witchcraft books is extremely affordable. There are definitely books out there that are $40, $50, $60, over $100, depending on if they're out of print or how obscure they might be. But $20 or less, I think, is pretty fair for a price. I would say that this book is pretty financially affordable. I will say too, I'm not sure if there is an audio version of this book or not. I did get the physical copy because I wanted one for my library. And for those of you who have been following me for a little while, you know that I'm currently in the Red Thread Academy, which is an online American traditional folkloric witchcraft academy. And I am in my second year of 3 currently. And in our second year, we pick like a specialty. And so the specialty that I have decided to pick to go along with my studies is votary, working as a priestess, which is something that I'm pretty familiar with and that I honestly already do even before I got into the academy, serving our coven locally here as a priestess and facilitating rituals and rites. Also, there are like different choices that you can pick from, and I am a Libra who needs to do everything all at once, which is obviously not realistic nor healthy. So also by picking votary, it was kind of my way of being able to do a little bit of everything, because in your devotion of your craft, in alignment with a spirit or a deity or a tradition, I feel like you can do some of the other specialties. If you're interested in learning more about the Red Thread Academy, I will make sure that there is a link down below, so definitely go check it out if you are interested. So that being said, I chose votary, and my self-initiation after that first year kind of influenced my decision on where I was going to take my path as a priestess and as a votary. And the white goddess has been heavily influential in my personal craft experience, contrary to everything I feel like I've really known in the craft. I've always been a very black goddess, dark goddess sort of girly, but in my second year in the RTA, I've been really hyper focusing on the white goddess archetype. And underneath that archetype, if you will, I feel like Aradia fits in very well because she is literally the divine daughter and the enchantress. She is literally life and love. So through my studies with Aradia as her votary and becoming an Aradian disciple, if you will, really spending a year and a day within my second year of the RTA, I figured I should read as much Aradian material out there to really best educate myself and form my own beliefs. I have also gone through the original Vangelo myself, and I've actually annotated line by line myself. So when I had originally got this book, I had picked it up, I want to say maybe a year and a half ago or so, and it just kind of sat on my TBR list. And then I kind of skimmed through it and I read through it a little bit. And then things in my own personal craft really started to develop with the White Goddess and through my work in the Red Thread Academy and my own personal development, which then led me back to Aradia, because this is something, not necessarily Craig Spencer's book, but Aradia in general and the Aradian mysteries is something that I find myself cycling back to every so often. Here on my channel, there is a video where I tell a story about like when I first met Aradia and coming across her statue and actually taking it home before I even really knew who this spirit, goddess, craft saint even was. As far as affordability goes, I would say that this book is very accessible price-wise. Also, the way that the book is written, I found to also be like very approachable. You know, your girl's very neurodivergent, so sometimes when things are really like texty and also the font is really small, it can make it a little bit difficult for me to actually follow along. I do wish that I had also gotten the audio version. Like I said, I don't know if there's an audiobook out there or not, but I do think that following along with the book with an audio version, if you know what I mean, like listening to it being read to you while actually following along, I think that would have helped me retain some information from this book. And I think I'm definitely going to be going back to this book again, just like I find myself going back to Aradia and those mysteries. However, I did take some notes, and so I will be sharing some of my thoughts with you all about this book now. Craig Spencer's Modern Guide to Aradia. Herodias is the Queen of Galilee in the New Testament, and her daughter, Salome, is the one who, on behalf of her mother, requested the head of John the Baptist on a silver platter. After doing the dance of 7 veils, a possible ritual showcasing the 7 gates of Ishtar. Charles references the name Herodias, but draws the conclusion that this is not the same woman from the Gospel. Craig draws the conclusion that the original Aradia in Italian never uses the name Herodias, but instead Herodes, which there is a difference there. It's believed that Herodias could be Hera Diana, while Herodes meaning the heroines, which it's very close, but there is a distinct difference there. Also, I just want to point out that my pronunciation is going to be terrible. I can hardly speak that properly in my first language, let alone any other language. So just know that. Craig kind of draws the conclusion that maybe Herodes was a title given to Aradia by the people of Italy, marking her as their heroine or their champion, which I really identified with that a lot. I felt like that really resonated to me. I've always kind of had some of my own personal UPG that Aradia could very much be like a title that would be initiatorily passed on from witch to witch to witch. Now, this can be very modern. I'm not making any Margaret Murray claims of some unbroken witch line, though trust me, I do love and live for the fantasy of that. Craig also made this distinction, which I really appreciated, that the name Aradia also means in Latin, era as an altar, refuge, protection, or voice, and dia as in day, or also possibly associating it with Diana. Craig also points out that Leland's work is filled with spelling errors, so it could also be Italian as in altar, and dia as in give or bestow or grant, or even dia as in goddess. Aradia serving as a living altar for the great goddess Diana, possibly serving as a deva, like being possessed by the spirit of her mother Diana, and serving as a high priestess, with Aradia being more of a title than just a name. That kind of touches on what I was talking about earlier in some of my own UPG, where I feel like Aradia, it can be a name, but it could also very much be a title, similar to Satan, but we're not going to touch on that in this video. Spell to win love reads off as a spell for grape. I'm not going to say the word here, but you can read the text yourself and kind of see what you think. But a spell to win love That's like with the shape shifting and the jackal dog and all of that. It definitely reads off as grape. And that's absolutely how I had interpreted it when I was going through the Vangelo myself and sort of annotating it line by line for my own studies and my own work that I'm working on. Craig says that when examined further, it's truly a spell to conceal a forbidden love. The spell is performed on a Friday, the day of Venus, a powerful day for love and lust magic. If it was simply for grape, why not the binding powers of Saturn on a Saturday, or the illusionary powers of the moon on a Monday? Also, Diana would never ordain something like that, and it would never work. And neither would Aradia ever ordain something like that. And I'm glad that Craig pointed that out, because that is something in the original gospel that always did kind of rub me the wrong way. You know, I don't think it's fair to put our own morality or ethics on spirits and gods, let alone texts from over 100 years ago. But it's something that I was just always like, really? The Dark Mother is going to ordain that? I find that hard to believe. Craig suggests that the spell to win love is more of a spell of shape-shifting and like concealing forbidden loves, more of like a Romeo and Juliet sort of vibe than like a creepy uncle using witchcraft to grape. I really enjoyed Craig's take on chapter 7, which is the evil eye spell. It's olive oil and a pin and a bowl of water. 3 drops of oil in the water represent the evil eye, poured then at the crossroads to send the evil to someone else, or then you pop the eyes to destroy the evil eye and neutralize it. Overall, I think I would have to give this book like an 8 or 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it, but I also really enjoy the Aradian mysteries. So if you find that boring, this definitely will not be the book for you. I know that the Vangelo is not everyone's cup of tea. I've actually been talking with some witches here in person and asking them how they feel about witch blood. There's a very, there's a book coming out in June that is in relation to witch blood that I'm really excited to read. There's been like a little bit of
controversy surrounding the work,
but also witch blood is a controversial topic in general. And a lot of modern witches that I know and witches from our tradition trace their witch blood either through Cain or through Aradia. And then there's also other witch blood sort of gnosis around like the fair folk, which I'm not as familiar with, so I'm not gonna like speak on it like I'm some sort of educator. But the idea that witch blood represents the power of witches that kind of flows to and through witches, through the red soul, in my understanding. I'll likely make a video about witch blood myself, and I definitely plan on doing a review video of that witch blood book when I get my hands on it. However, for Craig Spencer's Aradia, like I said, I think I would probably give it like an 8 or 9 out of 10. I enjoyed it. It was financially accessible. It was also, I would say, moderately easy to read. It wasn't like necessarily just handing you the information. You did need to pay somewhat of attention and like read through the book. But it was, I think, more accessible than some craft books that are so academically like written that they're hard to get through. I also have a little bit of experience with the Vangelo and the Gospel, like I said, as I've annotated it myself, which I have that posted on my Patreon right now. It might be a part of some published work later. I'm not really sure, but let me know what you think if you check that out. My only critique, and it's not even really like a super strong criticism, is that I do feel that there is some infernal and left-hand path influence in the Vangelo, in the Gospel of Witches. And I know that that's really controversial, right? Because for years, I feel like modern witches have said, oh, there's no devil in the craft. We don't believe in the devil. We don't worship the devil. We don't worship Satan, what have you. In the Gospel, in the Vangelo, Lucifer is literally Aradia's father. And some people take that as Lucifer as like the Roman Lucifer, like the Lord of Light, almost kind of like a gold devil or Apollo-like figure. And some people take that as the fallen angel. And personally, I like to entertain both ideas. I don't think that there needs to be like a right or a wrong. Also, I'm pretty sure the Vangelo like outlines Lucifer as the fallen one, which I feel like gives him even more Luciferian ties. But yeah, I personally really enjoy this idea of dark goddess, moon goddess, great mother Diana, and this fallen angel Lucifer sort of intermixing. And there's a whole lot of varying ideas around the sort of creation story in the Vangelo. There's also like Diana giving birth, like darkness giving birth to the light, and Lucifer being Diana, but them also being separate. And then Diana wanting to consume the light because the light is so beautiful and radiant, and she wants that back within herself. And then there's also kind of that connotation of like Lucifer being Diana's twin, kind of like an Apollo and Artemis vibe, but also being her consort, but also being her son, which is similar to like how Aradia is the earthly, fleshly vessel of Diana, but is also Diana's daughter, which really, if you're familiar with Christianity, shouldn't be that hard of a reach, considering Jesus is thought to be the Son of God, but he is God by the Christians, but he walked on the earth and he was mortal. That's kind of like the story of Aradia, who descends down from the heavens and teaches the peasant folk of Italy the art of the wise to liberate themselves from their wealthy Catholic lords, teaching them all types of how to conjure storms, sour milk, ruin crops. And one of my favorite quotes in the original Gospel of Witches is, I believe it's the charge of Diana to Aradia, who basically tells Aradia that whenever a priest shall do ye benedictions, do him twice the harm and do it in the name of me, your mother, Diana. Baby, where's the rule of three there, okay? Because the original Vangelo heavily influenced Wicca, the charge of the goddess specifically, and then Doreen Valiente. Hello, get into it, do your research. So if you've read this book, or if you're going to read this book, I would love to hear what you think. That's going to be it for today's video. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this book review. If you have any book suggestions that you would like me to review, drop them down below in the comments. And until next time, blessed be, and I will see you in hell.